whatever is going to be on YouTube is that it's whatever is on my screen.
Okay.
Um, so when you share, I will see that.
Okay.
Um, and whatever is going to be on. All right, we are officially live.
Alrighty. Well, um, I guess, do you want to give an introduction or should I give an introduction?
Yeah. Well, I was
We-
just gonna say, yeah. So originally we were gonna do an 8-part series, which we may or may not end up doing, but we did have a Josh, who is the lead singer of, well, that's arguable. He's the lead English language enthusiast. Uh, he's Welsh, but he is in the Parisian band Lewis Lings and the Bombs. Um, I'm actually not sure if we're supposed to say Lewis or Louis because Lewis Ling is American and we say Lewis, but they're Parisian. So I think he actually mixes that up. But in any case, he used to work in an AI company way back when doing music stuff. And basically, he left because he thought they were all like capitalist morons. He wanted to do like interesting, like, you know, songs that like molded to the user and interesting artistic stuff, and he was just like they just wanted to like you know make money and not, I mean, make music and not pay anybody for it. So he left doing all that, but we had a really good conversation. And so that is so far the only piece of this series. So um if people are interested in sort of like making more of these happen, then do let us know, because we did kind of have a plan, and then the organization kind of changed some focus, but we've already talked about some of this stuff, so we could do more of it. um, but the basic idea with the session in general is that there are, like the whole series, kind of the idea is that there are some real problems with the way that machine learning and AI is used and abused, and but a lot of the rhetoric is kind of like a lot of the like maybe you could just call it the like anti AI rhetoric. It's is really counterproductive. It kind of divides in places where it really shouldn't divide. And it basically, a lot of the stuff makes people sound like flat earthers, um and like people that are just, they're just trying to like make the world a better place, but like they just have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. And it's like, I know your heart is in the right place, but like you gotta like nobody's listening to like your valid concerns, because you just sound absolutely insane. um and so like I want to like, I think there's value in like the anger that people have, and like channeling that in the right direction. But like, if we don't speak to like the real problems, and we just sort of like make up these fantasy problems, and we're not going to win. Like we're like the world is going to be a worse place, not a better place. So that's basically my thing, is like try to bring, and I guess also there's this like public discourse in general, not just about AI, is like very like you're either on this side or that side, and like often the world is more complicated than that. And so I guess we're just kind of wading into that complication. And the history aspect, I guess, is maybe obvious. It's kind of one of those, if you don't understand the history, you're doomed to repeat it sort of situations. So um, I think it's foundational for understanding any of the other things that we want to talk about, to just like understand what the hell is it that we're even talking about. So, um, and then yeah, that's why we are here today with Mr. Alien 23.
All right. I guess on that note, my name is Al. I guess to give a little bit of background on myself, I graduated from Palm Beach State College uh, with a degree in social science and uh, information technology. Uh, my focus was on programming. Um, Oddly enough, what really got me into computing to begin with was music. Um, I got uh, I work in instrument development and engineering. There's a company, Praxis Guitars. You can check our stuff out at praxisguitars.com. Um, but that's uh, then I'm in a number of different music projects. My main music project is something called A23P. I've worked with Dave Smith, kind of arguably the father of MIDI, musical instrument digital interface. It's kind of a 20th century update to sheet music. And Roger Lynn, who's the inventor of something known as the MPC sampler. I worked with both of them on an instrument they had done called the Tempest. I've worked with the synthesis company Emu on their Proteus 2500 command station series. I worked with Moog on their Moog 1. Um, and yeah, I guess that's a small sampling. A group I'm with called the Church of Space um, was the keynote address of Moog Fest 2017. Moog Fest being a really big music and technology fest. And my last foray in corporate enterprise life, I was working for IBM Internal Security. I stopped doing that back in 2013, and I kind of look at it in a way as I feel like I owe the world a penance. I won't go into any more detail on that, other than to say that I decided to never work with enterprise again after leaving IBM, and I've gone primarily arts full time since then. Um, that said, when it comes to AI, there's a company by the name of IAVA. That's AIV IA, I think something like that. Um, but I was doing consulting with them for a bit on developing AI musical systems. And uh, yeah, and other than that, I think number one, first and foremost, I'll say
All right.
regarding the term AI, artificial is a word that means not something. It's just synonymous with not. So artificial sugar, not sugar. Um, so being that the word artificial is synonymous with not, I think it's kind of important for people to realize that when we say artificial intelligence, we are literally saying not intelligence. And I think a lot of people forget that. Uh, such all said, um, I guess, yeah, we'll move on to begin. Um, yeah, so AI, advanced idiots, as I like to refer to it, historical account, and going to be taking kind of a path less taken in regards to how to approach this, and really taking a look at the evolution of uh, AI, or artificial intelligence, or advanced idiots, if you prefer, through time. Um, and so we're going to start looking at starting really going back to more conceptual origins. So rather than starting in the 21st or even 20th century, Actually going to be drawing things back, beginning things at around 800 BC. Um, I think what's really interesting, or something I find interesting, is I think it can be worthwhile to, while going over some of the older past concepts, um, to really perhaps adopt a frame of mind of, okay, just imagine you're being told um, what something is, but the how it is, how it works, um, is being left out. And so I think at the beginning, like I said, we'll be going over a lot of things, and just keep in mind, okay, this is what something is. And as we move forward into the more 20th and 21st centuries, we'll get more into how it is. Um, but yeah, there's been a rather long-standing, like I said, we're going back to 800 BC, and these people were pulling stories from somewhere. So I'd say that there's a chance that some of these ideas go even further back than 800 BC. But and I figured 800 BC was uh, far enough back to go. And so ancient automata and early concepts. Um, going back to old Greek mythology, um, back around, like I said, 800 BC, we had a number of things come up. Most particularly, I think for Western culture, what's most significant is in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, Hypatia crafted self-pumping bellows, self-acting tripods, um, lifelike automatons to assist them in creating other automatons. Um, and there were even things like self-opening gates, self-pumping bellows. Um, and there is just what I think is worthwhile in keeping in mind with some of those things is when we say things like self-acting tripods. Um, Give me one moment here. I was trying to bring an image up that kind of I think will nail down um, a perfect example of a self-acting tripod. And of course, I am missing that image. So I'll just pull this up this way.
While you're working
But
on that, I was just going to mention that there's examples in the in Chinese sources going back to the 10th century BC of of like building mechanical men. So both you have both a European and an Asian tradition that go many centuries BC. So
yeah, for sure. But yeah, kind of all right, here we go. I think in regards to self-acting tripods, uh, we have, there we go. Where is my screen share thingy? There we go. This guy. Um, and so it kind of as much as George Lucas may have been kind of a visionary, he was kind of behind on his self-acting tripods and such with RTD2. Um, the Greeks had him beat by quite a long shot on that. Um, but anyhow, um, yeah, these these ideas would go on to inspire um, future inventors and philosophers, uh, obviously for quite some time. Uh, do, 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 do. Um, there we go. Um, Now, one of the things to I think is worthwhile to keep in mind with uh, things like the self-acting tripods and stuff like that is uh, when we look at, say, like the self-pumping bellows. Um, that was something that Hypatia was using as a basic model to aid him in the task of manufacturing other automa, uh, uh, other robots, if you will, of even greater technical ingenuity and quasi intelligence. So the self-pumping bells were uh, kind of like a more simplistic version of the brooms from of Mickey and Disney's Sorcerer and the Apprentice from Fantasia. And so all they really did was pump. Um, but when it came to the self-moving tripods, that was something that was getting, if not to the levels of RTD2, call it more to the levels of something like the Roomba, which of course is itself um, a tripod type device, and it has three wheels and moves all around the place. Um, and so matter of fact, to kind of take a little bit from that Iliad and the Odyssey, a little bit on the tripods. This is a translated to English quote. He moved to and fro about his bellows in eager haste, for he was manufacturing tripods, or tripodas in Greek, 20 in all, to stand around the wall of his well-built hall. He had set golden wheels, or kukla, on the base of each one, so that of themselves they could enter the assembly of the gods for him at his bidding, and return again to his house, a wonder to see. They were almost fully finished, but the clever cunning uh, uh, handles and ears were not yet fixed upon them. He was making these now and was cutting the rivets, working away with intelligent understanding. And so, so you have these tripods that are going to and fro and they're returning to their base. Like I said, kind of very, very similar to a modern day Roomba. Now, you had Hera, and she had self opening gates of heaven that would happen with the crack of her horsewhip. And dare say, this is kind of like our automated garage doors. Now, on a more intelligent end, that's getting more towards humanoid things, there were also like slaves made of gold. So these had, uh, more humanoid like bodies, and they could go ahead and take commands. Um, and then finally, there was a Phaeacian king by the name of actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave the slides here momentarily. There's a Phaeacian king, and that Phaeacian king had ships. And the king's name was Alcinous. And matter of fact, he ends up asking Odysseus for basically his home address so that he could effectively program the ships to return him to his, to his place. And so, the kind of uh, our modern day GPS, and definitely not just GPS, but GPS once we pair it up with self-driving cars and things like that, um, are really more so than something new. In a way, we're kind of echoing, um, things that are right there in the Iliad and the Odyssey. This is literally, how this Phoenician kings ships worked. Um, and so, yeah, there's quite a bit, uh, as the old saying goes. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. And so we have a lot of you know call it meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Um, Now, something I find kind of interesting is when we look at keeping within that Greek pantheon, when we move over to Aristotle within his book, Politics, he presents this idea of organon. What's interesting about organon is these are tools and instruments of not purely just a mechanical nature. Okay, so these weren't just machines, but they were also biological, and they could even be human. And the way, the likes of Plato and Aristotle, the way they perceived things was these organon, and as we begin playing with these concepts, which I'll get into this more later, of biological AI. Once again, we're not exactly entering into new territory, um, because, like I said, that's exactly what these organon were to Aristotle. And in the case that somebody was a human, the way Aristotle's view was it wasn't even simply a slave. That slave was an extension of the master himself. Um, and there's some relevance there, I feel, in regards to both music and synthesizers. I'm going to get into a bit later regarding relationships like that. Um, but moving on, as we get to the medieval days and the Renaissance, um, things get arguably more interesting. Um, One of the things that happens, or a big thing that happens during the Renaissance, is you have this fusion of uh, magic, uh, or mystical traditions that end up meeting with scientific traditions. A matter of fact, it's during this whole period that the father, or arguably the father of what we now call the scientific method, um, that being Mr. Francis Bacon, is born. And Francis Bacon himself was also an alchemist, and also Newton was an alchemist. And so you'll find this thing where uh, there's not really a differentiating line between those that work in technology and those that deal with the mystical, or magic at this point in time. Um, Matter of fact, that if one is seriously dealing with what one would call magic, um, it's basically inherent that they're also dealing with technology. Um, and so those two lines aren't so separated as they are today. Matter of fact, alchemy itself, um, a part of the root of that comes from Chem, which is rooted in Kemet, the original name of Egypt. Um, and so if we were to kind of look at who are the magi of today, well, rather than wearing dark hoods and such, um, they tend to wear lab coats. And rather than being called alchemists, um, or sorcerers or magicians, they're called things like theoretical physicists, and or dare say, even information theoretical informational technology persons, engineers. So a lot of people think that the days of the magi and stuff went away, and the fact of the matter is no, they never went away. The magi of old are still very much here with us today. It's just that the terminology we use to attribute to them has changed. And not only has the terminology that we attribute to them changed, a lot of the terminologies we apply to uh, the goals of the technology, um, again, haven't they're not so much new as they've simply changed. And so, even though dealing with the Renaissance right now, if we go back to the Greeks, we find that, they would go to the Delphic Oracle, um, in order to get assessments on things in the future. And this is largely today what we call predictive analytics. And oddly enough, one of the larger companies for doing databasing and helping figure out things for such predictive analytics is a company called, oddly enough, Oracle. And matter of fact, Oracle, owned by Larry Ellison, who's really big up with the current U.S. president on trying to do with this super big AI push. The first uh, customer of Oracle, and they're extremely proud of this, was none other than the CIA. And so it's kind of a, just as in the past, it's like, oh, okay, well, what were the Greeks doing when they needed to get future intelligence on things that were going on and whatnot? Well, they went to the AI masters of their time, which was the Oracle of Delphi. And fast forward to the 21st century, and who do the intelligence agencies and such go to when they need some help on getting a beat down on things? Well, just like the old Greeks, oddly enough, they're still going to Oracle. So, kind of like I said, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Now, kind of keeping on that end of predictive analytics, for some reason that was a big thing with, like I said, with the Greeks were doing it. But as we move on to the Renaissance, we have scholars like Albertus Magnus, who was created with creating a brazen head. And what was the brazen head to do? Well, it was to speak prophecies. Um, and so and it would literally speak. So now we have a supposed technology that isn't just doing predictive analytics, but it also has some kind of ability to voice things. Think it's kind of funny there. My father was actually Charles Nesby. He was the first black Top Gun instructor, and I remember back when he was, a Top Gun instructor. I first got introduced to GPS, navigational technologies back then. So this was around like 1987, 87, 88. And I didn't know it by the name GPS. I knew it by the name Bitching Betty because that's what the pilots called it. And I know, a matter of fact, a lot of them used to pull something to shut Bitching Betty up. And so I think anyone that's gone around driving with GPS can understand totally why they referred to to it as Bitching Betty.
I wonder while we're on Albertus Magnus, about the same time of his life, um, the the Arabs, or I guess specifically Ishmael al-Jazari, created a an atomic flute. So again, like we have multiple multiple lineages of things going on. And specifically, we're starting to talk about programmable music during this time period.
Uh, yeah, and just to kind of continue on your comment there on programmable music, um, kind of as you had noted a bit earlier, Doug, uh, there is there were things um, going on, particularly in Asia, and amongst some of the earliest cases of automated musical devices that I've heard of actually come out of Asia, um, and in the days before Christ, um, and so yeah, it's kind of a there's kind of a long line of be it for entertainment or production, um, or dare say even things sexual, especially once we're getting to around the Renaissance. We have some weird cases that pop up there, um, regarding automa that are more towards it's almost like a Renaissance era real dolls, so to speak. Um, but some other things that come up during that Renaissance time is we get the rise, um, from the Hebrew Jewish tradition of the concept of the golem, and the golem was this artificial man that could be brought to life. And there's similar cases of this, again with the Greeks, where you'll have these giant humanoid like figures, not just golden ones, that will be brought to life at times to like protect the city or something like that. um and what's interesting with I suppose the golem is in a certain way. I would kind of argue that it's like, yeah, I think that's where Shelley largely pulls Frankenstein from, um just because Mary Shelley's husband in particular, um was already deeply he was a major occultist, and kind of just a lot of the crew, those guys all hung around Lord Byron and such. Um, One of those characters that was supposed to have weird kind of mechanical real dolls, um, that were going on. But what also goes on in regards to uh, things uh, like Golem and whatnot is we have this uh, more modern, I guess you could say. Like I said, we can cite some cases of this with the Greeks, but I think it really takes off a lot more in the Renaissance of deploying automa for military purposes. And so, in those regards, even our modern concepts of drone warfare and things like that, these are not at all uh, entirely new concepts. Um, there, and so, yeah, it's, do, 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 do. But uh, and I'll just pause here for a moment as I've really gotten I've enjoyed some of your additional inputs, Doug. um, is there anything that you would care to add, Doug?
No, I mean, there's obviously a lot in the 20th
Okay,
century. I guess I don't know how much time we want
okay.
to leave for questions, so that's really
Moving on to the
no, sorry, I was muted. I was just gonna
I
say,
kind
I was
of
just gonna say, I don't know how much time we want to leave for questions, so I don't know. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, okay, in that case, so moving on to early modern and industrial precursors, we get the coining of the term artificial intelligence around 1955, 1956, largely from the Dartmouth Project. Um, and yeah, the you had a bunch of guys get together, and they were basically just exploring the whole concept of machine learning and reasoning and problem solving. Um, One thing I'd really like to uh, actually, I'll pause before this next slide here. Like to give out here is a lot of people, um, despite the fact that we live in largely a computing age, a lot of people have forgotten uh, some of the basics as to how and what our modern computers are and how they work. Um, so I'm actually gonna pause here for a second because I think it's an incredibly important to keep in mind. Um, we live in a fluid uh, analog universe, so to speak. That's the nature of our physical world. Um, and so within that, we 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 don't have we don't live in a situation of absolutes. Um, you know, we live more in a reality that begs the question, how accurate is accurate? And so when we're dealing with modern day computers, um, we are doing computations on absolute values, and I think that it's that's this or that, that's the nature of binary. Um, that's one of the key reasons I would sit down and personally tell someone regarding AI, um, as it's typically thought of today. That it's like, look, we're never going to get to the point of the AI being a real boy. The reason being that as long as we're coming from a standpoint of CPUs, central processing units, the brain of our modern day typical computer, we are doing binary functions. So there is no such thing as, well, I kinda like chocolate, because it's a land of absolutes. Okay. Um, it is this or that, period. And end of story. Um, and so that's one kind of hard, just literally hard coded reason
Um,
as to why the not intelligence won't, it's not going to become fluid.
yeah, I think this point about artificial general intelligence is one that is often lost in the discourse about it. And part of the problem, well, a huge part of the problem, is that we have three different things that are very, very similar in spelling and wording. We have the thing that people have talked about since the ancient Greeks, and the term for that is artificial general intelligence, AGI. Then we have this thing that, really came into popularity 4 years ago or so, this thing called generative AI. They don't have anything to do with each other, but they sound a whole hell of a lot like each other. You got, a G AI and then an AGI. It's really like, if you're not paying attention, you're going to get that confused. Well, last year, I mean, it was popularized last year, really the MCP stuff came out in 2024. But last year, people started talking about agentic AI, which again, absolutely nothing to do with the other two. One's not like a shortening of the other. They're three completely different concepts. And it's really hard to have like coherent political and societal discussions about these things. And I don't think people understand what they're talking about. So it's a really good, point that you bring up as far as, see, I'm doing it, about the AGI stuff, and where that could or could not be. And we don't have time to get into it. But the way that you way that you preface that about being binary does lead to some questions about quantum computing. But I think we should just leave those questions unanswered, given the time that we have. Something that people can ponder on their own time.
Yeah, the one thing I will give to both quantum and quantum computing. Number one, a lot of people don't know what the word quantum means, and it simply means very small. That's all it means. And so whenever people hear the word quantum, they can do to just replace that with very little or very small. And then secondly, a lot of our modern day quantum computers are computers of today ran off the bit. And simply speaking, that was saying it, that was some kind of value n, you know, to to the power of two. Okay. Um, and so 128-bit graphics, that means that we can do 128 to the power of 2 calculations. The reason the qubit uh, can be both on and off and on is it's not that it is off, on, and everything in between off and on. It is dealing only, again, that binary structure was two hard set values. And so with a lot of quantum computing now is we're simply saying like, hey, we cubed the bit. So rather than n to the 2, it's n to the 4. And I think before people get lost because they hear this word quantum, they don't know what it means, and it's something I think the scientific world really abuses people on. It knows people don't know what the word means. And so whenever they want to get away with something that they can't explain, they just throw the word quantum in front of it and everybody shuts up because they're confused. Um, but yeah. Moving on, let me bring this slide back up here. Alrighty. Ah, all right. So, some key early AI concepts, machine learning and NLP. A lot of initial AI research focused on creating systems capable of machine learning, natural language processing, and expert systems that emulate human decision making. These now, a lot of people hear about this thing called the Turing test, and Alan Turing had done this paper called "Can Machines Think?" And I think what's really, really, really worthwhile, what a lot of people I don't think get, is that number one, Alan Turing not only had no idea what consciousness was, but he goes out of his way in his paper, Can Machines Think?, to avoid any kind of question in regards to what consciousness is or attempting to answer it. He does not want to touch consciousness with a hot knife. He runs from that whole idea. What he basically outlines in Can Machines Think? And in certain ways, I think it's almost like it's worthwhile to view Alan Turing's work in Can Machines Think sort of like Machiavelli's The Prince, because what he basically sums up is he says, okay, if one can design a system that functions off discrete values, so we're dealing with those hard value sets again. If someone can create a system that's functioning off discrete values that is meant to emulate the actions of a human being, and one can uh, get an audience that's not aware of the emulation or otherwise synthesizer. Um, if they can get people to not be able to tell the difference between the actions of an actual person and the machine, then it passes the Turing test. And what that really says more than anything is, if a small group of smart people can bamboozle a large group of lesser intelligent people, then they can tell the people, the lesser intelligent people, that what's going on is something other than what's going on. That's what the Turing test goes over. That is its outline. In no way is the Turing test ever attempting to establish something as conscious. It's not trying to do that. And so a lot of things that get thrown out about the Turing test and things passing the Turing test, there's a lot of call it misattribution going on, and you have a lot of people thinking that there's this Turing test that's trying to establish as something that's conscious, and that's not what it's doing at all. It's simply saying that, hey, there exists a group or a mass of people that are unable to know what's going on, and there exists a small group of people that does know what's going on. That's really all it's saying. Um, Now, throughout its evolution, AI has intersected with a number of terms like android, um, robot, and cyborg, or hybrid biological and artificial beings. And these milestones kind of highlight the expanding vision of artificial agents, ranging from mechanical automatons to, more sophisticated systems. Um, Something I find more interesting now. I'll try to bring an image of it up here. Is there's another area of computing that I want to be really careful. Now I put this here. Show you guys an image of this here. So this would be on the supposed bleeding edge of modern day computing technologies. And so this is what's called the CL1. And the CL1, going back to concepts of, the organa. The CL1 is a computer from Cortical Labs, and supposedly, and I stress supposedly because while this is said to exist, um, the fact of the matter is that it's kind of kept in a black box. So Cortical Labs is an Australian biotechnology company. They're based in Melbourne, and they develop biological computing systems by integrating lab-grown neurons with silicon hardware. And so, using actual brain tissue or homegrown brain tissue um, to power computers as opposed to a CPU, that is something radically different
I
than what's
mean,
going on. What's
ha
that?
Hasbro invented that in the 80s, so I mean,
but but yeah, the using a brain tissue to power things rather than a CPU, um, that's something radically different than uh, than what's going on with what we call AI today. And I just want to I'm gonna only give slight mention to things like the CL1 because, like I said, the thing is kept in a black box. If you hook up to a cloud and you can supposedly work with it, but who knows what you're working with because ain't nobody really seeing this thing.
To clarify my Hasbro comment, in case people don't understand what I'm talking about, this is one of the lesser of the completely stupid things that people say about AI. But I hear all the time because I'm in like Transformers, fan groups and stuff that like Transformers are AI, which is absolutely ludicrous. In like all Transformers continuities, Transformers are like they're living beings. They're not artificial creations. They have a soul called the Spark. Um, so yeah, don't call Transformers AI, or again, you just sound like you don't know what you're talking about.
You got my man. I got like you got the touch and stuff going through my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, no. So yeah, which is its own sort of like questions about like silicon based life forms versus carbon based life forms and things like that, which is way the hell out of the I mean, like, I'm sure you could write a great album about this kind of stuff, but like from the like the day-to-day like musician, probably not the most useful rabbit hole to dive down, but
Yeah, yeah. I don't. No, nobody of any significance is seriously playing with this weird carbon silicon bond computing stuff.
Yeah.
And for for all I know, it doesn't even
Yeah.
exist. So I'm like, I don't know. There's some guys somewhere. They're throwing stuff up on a screen, and they're saying that they got the brain tissue.
Well,
They grew in the lab.
I mean, if think about it though. Like a neuron at some level is a conductor. I mean, like it seems like, I mean, you're sending electrical impulses through some sort of
Pulses.
like conductive fluid. I mean, whatever that means is, like, I mean, but I don't know. It sounds completely feasible to me. I mean, but does that mean it's life? No, they're sending an electrical impulse through like something other than, copper or silicone. I mean, that whatever. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And just to give a little bit more, and again, I question any time
Live
that
streaming has stopped.
oh, that's our hour.
derp.
I had forgot. Oh, that though that doesn't actually matter though, because that was the live stream that I started from Jitsi, but then we like I like ended that on YouTube, but Jitsi just didn't know that I ended it. So like the the
So YouTube is fine.
yeah, the OBS is actually what's running the YouTube. So
Okay, and
false alarm.
but yeah, uh, just a little bit more on this supposed cortical company founded in 2019 by Han Weng Chong. The company gained international attention in 2022 when researchers published a paper in the journal Neuron describing Dish Brain, a system in which in virtual neuronal cultures learn to play the video game Pong in a closed loop environment. In 2025, Cortical Labs launched the CL1, which it describes as the world's first commercially available biological computer. Like I said, though, commercially available, huge finger quotes around that. Can nobody get to this thing? And then more recently in 2026, they supposedly taught it to play Doom. Um, Again, though, either way, this would be dealing with computing technologies of a sort that are completely outside the realm of AI as we currently know it. Um, and I call it for lack of better terming. The CL1 very much may be a moon landing as far as I'm concerned. And it's just like okay, whatever. Um, but okay. Moving on. Oh man, bouncing
Yeah.
between
I
these
don't know
screens.
how many more, how much you had. There's the like the ambient show. I don't know exactly what's
Just
going on
about
with
done.
all. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And okay, where were we? Right here. Okay. All righty.
We got Inception going on here.
Yeah. Whoops. Let me fix that. Bam. All right. There we go. Okay. Um. So okay, modern AI and okay. I'm sorry. We kind of went over some of this. But yeah, modern AI owes much to the advancement of integrated circuits, systems on a chip. All systems on a chip is we moved on from going, okay, let's take the CPU, let's take the Wi-Fi, let's take everything. We're going to put it on one big chip. Um, and That's what runs a lot of the things that are powering the things today. Um, we've gotten to a point now where we're doing, as Doug brought it up earlier, where we're dealing with a lot of things that we call agents now. And advanced agents are capable of autonomously calling external tools and services, and basically we're it's in some ways, I would say it's like leaving your computer and putting your calculator to run everything, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't think people need to rewatch Disney's Sorcerer and The Apprentice. Things did not go well for Mickey when he just left the brooms alone to do their thing. And that's I think that's a good way to look at what people are calling AI agents is they're Mickey's brooms, and you actually give them access to real world things, so to speak, in order to act on those things. And the amount of accidents that have been happening due to that have been pretty profound. Hundreds of millions of dollars just going missing, just poof. um, and so yes, and so we have these more passive agents and things that are doing more autonomous agents across various things, and that's been a big push from Microsoft, is to kind of go ahead and put the agents in everybody's OS, and um, I don't know why anyone should think nothing will go terribly wrong with that, but but whatever, yeah, you just let the agent into your computer and it will go ahead and do things for you, and just hope that it doesn't do something you didn't want, I guess. Um, and so, anyhow, and in conclusion, um, you know, something outside of what I currently have on screen there. Um, for me, like I said, AI really is just another term for synthesizer. And the first serious advent of analog synthesizers driven by straight up, as crazy as what I was saying before about biological computing, but the first serious advent of analog synthesizers driven by biological AI player systems was in fact the orchestra. You know, you had various acoustic instrument sections of the orchestra acting in capacities of oscillators or tonal, generators. And people often forget that the instrumentalist in the orchestra did not exist in creative roles. This is going back to Aristotle, where and his organa, which could be human, but they were just extensions of the master. So the fact of the instrumentalist within the orchestra was and continues to largely be to simply act in the capacity of automa, where they are ready to both receive and interpret procedural instruction and execute that instruction with a high degree of technical efficiency and accuracy. So achieving first chair in the orchestra is kind of being synonymous with being labeled the most effective biological AI. And subsequently, the conductor of the orchestra was simply the player of that biological AI system. Um, and albeit in kind of an esoteric fashion, the film Bill and Ted, I think, spoke well to this. They had a scene where they bring all these people from the past to a shopping mall. And so they introduce Beethoven to the 20th century shopping mall. And Beethoven gets introduced to modern day synthesizers and sequencing technologies. And, to him, he's free to the constraint of needing this extremely high budget for a concert hall, more finance to get all the players in, more finance for all the instruments. And he just goes crazy on this synthesizer and sequencer. And, I to I think today we have a lot of that same capability. We can be like Beethoven on that synthesizer and sequencing system. And I think that's great. What I think is really, really, really dangerous, though, is when people lose sight of what's really being dealt with and they start to attribute things to, they forget that the word artificial means not. They forget that the Turing test was not interested in consciousness whatsoever. It was much more interested in a social engineering trick than it was in finding consciousness. You know, can we fool the masses into not understanding a technology? That is the Turing test, not anything finding consciousness. And so as long as we keep in mind what the tools are exactly, um and we keep our power constraints, feasible, I think there's a lot of good things that can be done. But when we lose sight of what's going on and what the technologies are, and we sleep into uh, just superstition, the Turing test really does become a form of Machiavelli's The Prince at that point, and we can begin quickly slipping into a collective mass, not only dystopian society, um, where there's just a small batch of technocrats that just rule over the mass of idiots that rule over the aboriginals with laptops. Advanced forms of slavery don't require whips and chains. Um, so I think there's two directions we can go, and one I think is really, really, really positive and potentially really, really, really creative, while the other kind of slips us off into a dystopia. And so kind of on those ends, I kind of look at it as uh, you know uh, why not Bill and Ted? Why not go for the be excellent to each other? And at that, if anybody's ever worried about the AI systems coming after their arts or something, there's a really, really simple test, at least musically, I feel people can give AI to reassure themselves that the things aren't conscious and aren't going to be anytime soon. And all you got to do is get together with a couple people, grab some instruments, be ready to improv, and just throw the AI on one set of instruments or whatever, and then everybody get together and just 1, 2, 3, go and rock. And I completely assure you, the weakest link in the chain every time is going to be the AI, because it's going to quickly, if not immediately, just begin tripping all over itself and everyone else. Because while it may be really, really good at being like John Carpenter's The Thing and being a mimic, um, it doesn't function. Statistical probability sets are not concerned with acting in original artistic fashions. So so that's kind of a simple test that anyone can do to prove it. Yeah, the advanced idiot is an advanced idiot. And so I kind of look at it as let's have fun with the new synthesis technologies. Be creative with them. Um, Not overly invest more energy into them than we really need.
And
And
that comment goes in a couple of different directions, I think. I'm not sure which one you actually meant there, but
but I'm gonna call. I meant all of them.
oh, yeah, fair enough. I guess just so people, there's your own like personal energy, and like, you know, these are tools, and maybe they're helpful, maybe they're not. But and like it does take some time to learn new tools, but like at the end of the day, you need to use the right tool for the job. And, like if you want to add like two 4-digit numbers together, then AI is not the right tool for the job. A calculator is the right tool for the job. But the other thing is that, like people are building data centers, all over the place and sucking energy from towns, and water and other resources. So, we do need to be mindful. And this is one of the important things about using the right tool for the job, because, you know, if you're using a large language model, that word language, it's designed to do a specific thing. And when you give it a task like math, not only is it bad at it, it's inefficient at it, which is kind of like the oh god, he's a French dignitary, Talleyrand. He had a saying, it was worse than criminal, it was a mistake. Which yeah, I love that one.
But alrighty, I guess yeah, and on the good end, I feel like I almost stuck within the hour that I had planned. On the bad end, that definitely ended things for questions.
Yeah. Well, I said at the beginning that, where we were going to go with this has kind of changed as the organization's focal point has changed, but we still have, the outlines of what we had planned to do. So at some point, well, actually, I put it on the calendar. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but I might as well look at the calendar here. Is it May 16th? Doesn't look like it's May 16th. May 23rd, May 9th, maybe. So I don't have times because I need to like talk to some people about some times, but I have marked May 9th, Saturday, May 9th as the net label assembly. And that may be the day where we get together and figure out if we want to continue this series or not. But certainly, any feedback that we get about content, and I think you can see why we were thinking about doing an 8-part series by like, how much of, like the like statistical history, and like we didn't talk about Gauss, we didn't talk about Leibniz. Like these are like very important figures, and like
Yeah,
this history is very rich. And so, and then, there's like all these legal concerns. That was one of the things that we were gonna have a session on. So there's a lot of directions we could go, but we just need to know that people actually want, they want more of this for us to continue. So yeah, just drop
yeah.
us a comment. You can email me, Doug@blocksonic.com, and yeah, happy to have the feedback.
But alrighty, Doug.
All
Um,
right.
which is because I know you had things going on OBS. Is the session itself?
Yeah, yeah. So you got anything else to tell to the people before I hit the stop stream button here?
Um, no, I can't say that I do myself.
Okay.